Hola clase, hoy vamos a hablar sobre el verbo ser and subject pronouns. Okay, and before we begin and talking about Spanish, what I want to do is review a little bit of English stuff with you guys first. So here's the question. Do you know what is meant by first person, second person, and third person? Hopefully you do. First person is the person who is speaking, which is I. Second person is the person to whom one is speaking, so you. And third person is the person about whom one is speaking, so he, she, or it. So I, you, he, she, or it are all singular pronouns, and each refers to one person. But keep in mind, we also have plural pronouns. Okay, so if we take I and add another person, we get we, which is our first person plural pronoun. If we take you and add another person, we get y'all or you all, making that our second person plural. And if we add he, she, or it with another person, we get they, okay, which is our third person plural pronoun. So these are our pronouns in English. Now we're going to learn the pronouns in Spanish, our subject pronouns, which are very important to learn. Okay, so like I just said, these pronouns are called subject pronouns. What that means is that these pronouns are used as the subject of a sentence in place of an actual noun. Okay, so for example, I read a book. I read a book, you read a book, and he reads a book. Okay. So pronouns are always, always, always in this order. Okay. When you learn pronouns in any language, this is the order in which you'll find them. When you learn verbs that go with pronouns, the verbs will always, I cannot stress it enough, always be in this order. Okay. So we're going to have this almost kind of little table here with our first person, second person, and third person on the left, and our singular and plural on the top. So it's always going to be in this sort of order, and you'll see it in just a second when we go over the Spanish pronouns. Okay, so here's kind of our little table right here. All right. And the question was, how often are pronouns found in this order? And the answer is always, always, always. Okay. Okay, so following are these Spanish pronouns. So first we have yo, which corresponds to I. Tú, which means you. Él or ella, which means he or she. Nosotros, which means we. Vosotros, which means y'all. And this one is actually only used in Spain and maybe one or two other countries in Latin America. So this you will hardly ever hear me use because I did not learn Spanish from teachers that are from Spain. I mostly learned it from teachers who were from Latin America. So you may hear me pop this out every once in a while, but usually you won't. And I will explain why in further detail later. And then lastly is ellos, which means they. Okay, so here are the beginnings of our Spanish subject pronouns, and you'll see some modifications to these in just a second. Okay, Spanish has two additional pronouns, usted and ustedes. Okay, usted means you, and ustedes means y'all. However, usted, you're probably thinking, well, I thought we just said that tú means you. Well, usted is used with people to whom you should show respect, people who are older than you or in a position of authority. So it's pretty safe to say that if you call the person Mr., Mrs., Miss, etc., with their last name, so for example, me or any of the teachers at the school or an officer or someone you've never met, you should use usted rather than tú. If you call the person by their first name, so maybe like your friends or your family or people that you really, really know and are familiar with, then you're going to use tú, okay, because it's in more of an informal way of saying you. So keep in mind, usted is just a formal way of saying you. And you're going to use it with people who are in authority above you or people that you probably don't know. Okay? Ustedes is used to show, in Spain, to show respect, just like usted. However, vosotros, like I said, the familiar form you use with friends, doesn't exist in Latin America, and they use ustedes no matter who they're talking to. Okay, so in Spain, people are going to use vosotros with friends and people that they are familiar with. But in Latin America, so basically the other 20 countries that use Spanish, when you will hear them talking, you'll hear them say ustedes when they're talking about y'all. Okay, when they're talking to y'all, to a group of more than one person in reference to you. And you'll hear me say ustedes to you guys instead of vosotros or vosotras because I did not learn my Spanish the Castilian way, which is the Spanish way from Spain. Okay. Now you're probably wondering, well, how do I use this? Because it is like you, but it's not the same as tú. Okay. So in spite of the fact that usted means the same thing tú does, which is you, it's treated like a third person pronoun. And here's where it is added. Okay. So it's going to be added in the él or ella form. What that means is that anything that applies to the third person, like verb endings and object pronouns, which we'll learn in the future, also applies to usted. Okay? The same is true of ustedes. Even though it means the same thing as vosotros, which means y'all, it goes with the third person plural. Okay? And you'll see it right here. And one more note about subject pronouns. The OS, so the ending OS, in 3 of them can change to AS if every member of the group is female. Okay, so if we're talking about we ladies, like it's maybe a group of ladies and myself, and I say we, then I'm going to use nosotras for we instead of nosotros because we don't have any guys in the group. However, if it is a mixed group with both girls and guys, which do you think we're going to use? Muy bien. We are going to use the masculine form of the subject pronoun because if there's one guy and a million women, remember, it always favors the masculine term. Okay? And the same is true with vosotras, if you're saying y'all to a group of ladies, and then ellas, if you're referring to them or they as a group of ladies. Okay, the next important thing in this video, very, 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 muy importante, is el verbo, the verb ser. Okay? Ser means to be. It is the most irregular verb there is in both English and Spanish, and ironically, we're learning it first because it is one of the most important verbs that you will use in English or in Spanish. Okay? In English, it means I am, you are, he or she is, we are, y'all are, and they are. Okay? And how often do we use these? All the time. Okay? That's why to be or ser is so importante. Okay? Excuse me. Disculpa. Here is the verb ser at the bottom and how it is conjugated. Okay? So when we conjugate a verb, which we will do all in the future, what you are going to do is you are going to literally take the verb and break it down to match each subject pronoun. Okay, so they're going to look different for each subject pronoun. So soy is going to go with yo soy. Tú eres, él or ella es. Nosotros somos, vosotros sois, and ellas, ustedes son. And I'm about to show it to you. Okay. Oops. Sorry. Okay. So here at the top, you'll see I am in blue. Okay. Then you are. He or she is. We are, y'all are, and they are. That's how we say it in English. Okay. In Spanish, we're going to have our subject pronouns right here on the left in this little table right here that go with these three, which are our first, second, and third singular persons. Or we're going to go over here and we're going to have our plural persons, our first, second, and third plural. So yo soy means I am. Tú eres means you are. Él, ella, usted means he or she is, or you are, for plural, for formal, usted. Nosotras, nosotras somos, we are. Vosotros sois, y'all are. Ellas or ellos, they are, or ustedes, y'all are. Okay? Now, however, you saw that I had the subject pronouns, I'm going to go back, listed right here along with the verb. Okay? However, you don't have to use the pronouns when you're conjugating some verbs. Okay? So look at the Spanish forms of ser. Just get a good look for a second. If you notice something, all of them are different. This means that whether we use the subject pronoun or not, we will understand what each conjugation of the verb means and whom is doing the action, okay? So we don't even need yo right here to go with soy because we see that soy is different than all of the other ones. So if we just say soy, we're going to know that it means I am, okay? So we don't need the subject pronoun. Now, if you want to put it, you could either say soy or you could say yo soy. Both mean I am. Spanish is a pro-drop language, which means that we can drop the pronoun and we still can get our point across. English is not a pro-drop language. So if you would say am, no one would know what the heck you meant. You have to say I am in order for people to understand what you're saying, okay? If you just said are, well, we wouldn't know if you're talking about you are, we are, they are, or y'all are. Okay, so English is not a pro-drop language. However, Spanish is, which means we don't need the pronoun. We can drop it and we can still understand who or what we're talking about. Okay, we're just going to have a little bit of práctica. Oops, excuse me. Okay, so if we have ellos, this is our subject pronoun. What do you think is going to go in the blank if we want to conjugate the verb ser? Okay, so what form of ser is going to go with ellos? Son. Muy bien. Okay, what form of the verb ser is going to go with Juan? Now, Juan is a third person, and it's just one person. We're talking about Juan, which means that he's going to be third person singular, which is es. All right, Elena y yo. Elena and I. Note, Elena y yo is the same as nosotros, okay? So Elena and I is the same as saying we, okay? So it's Elena y yo somos. Usted, remember, is going to be clumped with él or ella in the third person singular bracket, although it means you. So it's going to be usted es, tú eres, and that is it. All right, so I know that was a lot of información, but I know that y'all get it because y'all are súper inteligente. That información es muy importante, okay? The verb ser is probably the verb you'll use the most in all of the Spanish language, and subject pronouns are very important because you have to use them with every single verb that you conjugate. Okay, so I know that video was a little bit long, but thank you guys for sticking through it. I hope you have a great day. Adios.